My name is James, and I'm 25 years old. My twin brother Jack and I share more than just our looks. We study in the same university, share the same classes, and even the same apartment. But despite all this, our relationship wasn't as strong as it should have been. We lived a life of carefree indulgence, rarely caring about rules or discipline. Most of our time was spent in the pursuit of temporary thrills, and we constantly argued. Jack and I could never seem to agree on anything, and our differences always led to heated exchanges. We were bound by blood, but our bond felt superficial. One day, as I sat in one of my classes, I struck up a conversation with Farid, a fellow student. He was a calm, composed, and extremely honest person. I noticed something different about him. His integrity was unwavering. He never indulged in alcohol or any of the typical habits our classmates were drawn to. At first, I couldn't understand why he chose such a lifestyle, but the more I observed him, the more curious I became. Despite our differences, Farid and I developed a friendship. His sincerity and kindness were rare qualities, and I found myself drawn to him. Over time, I felt an urge to understand more about what made Farid the way he was. So one day, I asked him directly. I'll never forget the look on his face, a mix of surprise and eagerness. Farid patiently explained the core principles of Islam to me. He spoke about the concept of Tawheed, the oneness of God, and the importance of leading a disciplined and honest life. He described how Islam teaches respect, compassion, and kindness to all, regardless of their beliefs. For the first time, I felt as if I was being introduced to something truly meaningful. Listening to Farid, I started realizing the emptiness in my life. The endless arguments with Jack, the late nights, the constant chase for entertainment, all of it seemed shallow in comparison to the peace and purpose that Farid embodied. I found myself yearning for a similar sense of purpose. Over the next few weeks, I spent more time with Farid, asking questions and learning about Islam. Each answer filled a void I didn't even know I had. Gradually, I started incorporating small changes into my life, mirroring some of the teachings Farid shared with me. I stopped drinking, began waking up early, and even attempted to resolve the arguments with Jack, who was surprised by my sudden transformation. One evening, after spending hours in deep contemplation, I took a step I never imagined I would take. I went to Farid and told him that I was ready to embrace Islam. Farid's eyes shone with joy, and together we prayed, sealing my faith and my commitment to this newfound path. It was a deeply emotional experience, one that I could feel in my soul. I felt peace washing over me, a peace I had never known. The change in me was impossible for Jack to ignore. He asked questions, though his skepticism was clear, but I could see the curiosity in his eyes. I decided to share my journey with him, speaking to him with the same patience Farid had shown me. I told him about the sense of calm and purpose that Islam brought into my life. I told him how it filled a void in my heart and transformed the way I saw the world. Jack was reluctant at first, but eventually he softened. He saw the difference in my life and felt the sincerity in my words. With time, he too became open to learning about Islam. Then one day, after many conversations and countless questions, Jack approached me and said he was ready. He too wanted to take the step toward a life of purpose and peace. Together we prayed, marking his acceptance of Islam. I could feel the bond between us strengthen instantly. We were no longer just brothers by blood, we were united by faith. From that day forward, Jack and I led a completely different life. Our days were filled with purpose and discipline. We prayed together, studied together, and encouraged each other to grow in faith and character. The petty arguments that once marred our relationship faded away, replaced by mutual respect and understanding. For the first time, we truly felt like a family. Our parents noticed the change in us too. They saw the peace that had taken over our lives and the strength of our bond as brothers. Jack and I still laugh and joke, but now it's without malice or rivalry. Our relationship is one of love, support, and shared faith. Looking back, I realize how lucky I was to meet Fareed. His kindness and patience changed my life in ways I could never have imagined. Islam has given Jack and me a renewed sense of purpose, peace, and brotherhood. Today, I am grateful for every moment of this journey, knowing that my life is filled with a tranquility that only faith could bring.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support means a lot and helps us keep bringing you great content. See you in the next one.
In a small village nestled among the hills lived a humble carpenter named Ibrahim. Known for his honesty and skill, Ibrahim crafted furniture that adorned nearly every home in the village. Yet, despite his reputation, he lived a modest life. His wife, Amina, and their young daughter, Layla, were his greatest treasures. But life was not without challenges. For years, Ibrahim struggled to make ends meet. His workshop was small, and the tools he used were old and worn. Still, he never complained. Every morning, he would begin his day with dua and trust in Allah's plan, reciting, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil, Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. One fateful day, Ibrahim returned home to devastating news. His daughter Layla, who had been running and laughing just the day before, now lay pale and weak in her bed. She had fallen seriously ill, and the local doctor informed them that her condition required urgent treatment in the city. The cost of treatment was far beyond what Ibrahim could afford. His heart sank. He had saved a small sum, but it was barely enough to cover the journey, let alone the medical expenses. That night, as Amina wept silently beside Layla's bed, Ibrahim fell to his knees in prayer. Tears streamed down his face as he pleaded, Ya Allah, you are the provider. You are the healer. Grant my daughter Shifa and guide me to a way out of this hardship. The next morning, Ibrahim made a decision that would test his faith like never before. He took his most prized possession, a beautifully carved wooden table he had spent months perfecting, and carried it to the market. It was a masterpiece, intended for a wealthy client who had promised a handsome payment upon delivery. But Ibrahim knew that waiting for the payment was not an option. Layla needed help immediately. At the market, Ibrahim approached a merchant known for buying handcrafted items. This table is worth more than gold to me, Ibrahim said, his voice trembling, but I need to sell it today. Will you take it? The merchant examined the table and nodded. I will buy it, but I can only offer you half of what it's worth. Ibrahim hesitated. Half the price meant he would still fall short of the medical expenses, but time was running out. He accepted the offer, took the money, and hurried home. With the money in hand, Ibrahim and Amina set out for the city. They reached the hospital where Layla was admitted and treated immediately. The doctors assured them that with continued care, she would recover. But as they sat in the hospital waiting room, counting every penny left, Ibrahim realized they had no money to return home. Once again, he turned to Allah. Ya Allah, you brought us this far. I trust you will not leave us now. That evening, as Ibrahim wandered the hospital corridor, lost in thought, he noticed a well-dressed man struggling to move a heavy bench. Without hesitation, Ibrahim stepped forward to help. The man, whose name was Mr. Kareem, thanked Ibrahim and asked,
Are you here for someone?
Ibrahim shared his story, including how he had sold his prized table and spent everything to bring his daughter for treatment. Mr. Kareem listened intently, his eyes filled with admiration.
You're a man of faith and integrity,
Mr. Kareem said.
I happen to run a furniture business, and I'm always looking for talented craftsmen. How about you come work for me? I'll give you a fair wage and a place to stay in the city."
Ibrahim was stunned. "But I have no tools in my family," Mr. Karim smiled.
"I'll provide the tools, and your family will be safe here. You've shown true sacrifice for your daughter, and Allah has placed you in my path for a reason."
With Mr. Karim's help, Ibrahim began working in the city. His skill and dedication quickly gained recognition, and he was able to pay for Layla's full treatment. In time, Layla recovered completely, her laughter filling their home once more. Ibrahim often reflected on the journey that brought him to this point. He realized that every hardship had been a test of faith, and every moment of patience had been rewarded by Allah's mercy. The verse from the Quran resonated deeply in his heart. "Indeed, with hardship comes ease." Surah Ash-Shar 94:6. Years later, Ibrahim's workshop became one of the most renowned in the city, and he employed others who were struggling, just as he once had. He often shared his story with his employees, reminding them to never lose hope in Allah. "Trust in Allah," he would say. "When you think the doors are closing, He opens windows you never knew existed."
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support means a lot and helps us keep bringing you great content. See you in the next one.
My name is Amina. I'm 14. In my short time on Earth, I've already experienced a lot. A few years ago, my parents got divorced. Divorce might not seem like a big deal to some, but when you're used to a home where both parents are present, no matter how tense things are, it feels like the ground is pulled from under you. I've always loved my parents deeply, and they did their best to raise me and my younger brother Ahmed with everything we needed. But when my father lost his job, everything changed. I remember the day he came home, anger flashing in his eyes. I stayed quiet, hoping he would calm down. But at dinner, he erupted, complaining about his boss and drinking heavily. Over the months, his drinking worsened, and he became more distant, lost in his own struggles. My mother tried to help, but eventually she couldn't bear the pain any longer. She poured his drinks down the sink one day, and that was the breaking point for my father. He left, and my mother had no choice but to move on for us. Watching my mother cry quietly at night tore me apart, but I was helpless. I wanted my father back, the man who used to take us to the masjid for Friday prayers and tell us stories of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his companions. But the father I knew was gone, and all that was left was someone overtaken by his own pain. One day, my mother remarried a kind man named Uncle Khalid. He was gentle and respectful, always treating my mother with care and taking an interest in me and my brother. I thought things were finally looking up until my father returned demanding to see us. His visits became regular and chaotic. Angry words, fights, and police being called. My father's presence was chaotic and embarrassing, and soon the kids at school called me the troubled kid. Then, one day, as he stood outside our house, I finally opened the door and faced him. The sight of him broke my heart. He looked tired, sad, and deeply lost. In that moment, I remembered something my mother once told me. Even if someone seems lost, we should never lose hope in Allah's mercy for them. I couldn't hold back my tears as I told him how much I missed the father I knew and loved, and how much his actions were hurting all of us. I told him that I was praying for him every day, asking Allah to guide him back to us. For the first time in years, he cried. And this time, it wasn't out of anger or frustration. It was like he finally saw himself and all he had done. He wept in my arms, apologizing over and over. He told me he missed us, that he felt so empty and didn't know how to fill the void. I held him tightly and whispered, "Baba, Allah's mercy is greater than any mistake. Let's both pray together and seek help, one step at a time." Since that day, my father started seeking help, and although the journey is long, he's making progress. I learned that showing him kindness and reminding him of Allah's boundless mercy gave him the hope to change. It was a hard road, but I knew that with Allah's help, healing was possible. And I realized that sometimes all we need is to remind those we love that Allah is there for them, no matter how far they think they've strayed.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support means a lot and helps us keep bringing you great content. See you in the next one.